What's the most morally disgusting thing you've ever seen someone do? Once worked with a guy that was HIV positive and he would purposely date underage boys and not tell them. Luckily he was arrested one day at work. Worked in animal rescue welfare and encountered so many people who just had zero regard for other beings. Lots of mutilation, things like people taking their kitchen scissors to their cat's ears and paw pads, giving their dog's body piercings and tattoos, literally just cutting chunks out of their pets for no reason other than to see how far they could go. Hoarding cases are awful, but it's truly a mental illness, and hoarders believe that they are helping. Backyard breeders are unethical in creating sick Frankendogs. But the mutilation really sticks in my brain, because there's no explanation for it that could even pretend to pass as logical or humane. My brother stole nearly $10K from my parents' checking account to buy heroin while my dad was in the hospital having a stroke and we thought he might die. My dad wrote him out of his will after this. I work in animal rescue. I hate people most days. The abuse to animals is sickening. I can't tell you how many times I've heard it's just a dog or bird or horse. I have a cockatoo that spent 3 years in a cage, in a closet, under a blanket because she was too loud. I have a dog who is terrified of boots because a man kicked her constantly. I rescued a cat who was tortured by neighborhood kids. They had duct-taped firecrackers to her tail, then closed her up in a box and tossed her in the middle of the street to watch the box explode. People are cruel. I work in a nursing home. I'd been body mapping an old lady and noticed a lot of bruises popping up with some frequency. I paid close attention to her for a while, and one day, I saw this new agency guy from Nigeria lift her arm whilst she was walking and slap the shit out of it. Never shouted at someone so fucking loud before. Reported him immediately and the bastard denied everything. No other witnesses but me. He got away with it. People who market false cures for serious illnesses, especially cancer. Like Belle Gibson. She can go fuck herself entirely. Had a friend who was manipulated by someone who entered our friend group. He had gotten an inheritance from when his father passed away and was told to use it on his education. He ended up moving in with the manipulator, and within no time at all the guy convinced him that he could triple that inheritance through selling drugs. That he would make his money back by the time his tuition was due. Thing is, the guy convinced him to spend the whole inheritance, leaving him no money for rent, no money for anything. Took the drugs, ran off to Maryland, changed his phone number. We tried telling him this was a bad idea, but in our friend's eyes this guy was the coolest or some shit. Yes, I know this can be chalked up to stupidity, but our buddy had lost his mom at a young age. His father passed away before he turned 19. His stepmom tried to keep everything. Kept most of it. Changed the locks to the house his father had built. He was going through a lot of crap at that time and was easily manipulated. Edit, typo. A man posting pictures of his ex-wife and her not his adult daughter on dating sites using fake profiles saying they are looking for threesomes and stuff with their actual address and real phone numbers. Constantly posts on local boards where she lives calling her a slut, homewrecker, etc. This is ongoing now 2 years after she divorced him. He was the one with a girlfriend on the side. He lives with the GF now and is still doing this to his ex-wife. I feel bad for everyone involved. A drunk blind man kicking his guide dog. One time when I was just a kid, maybe 10 at oldest, I was walking to a friend's house. A dark-haired teenage girl of probably 16 or 17 was walking about 20 paces ahead of me. Along the way she met up with a blonde teenage girl. They appeared to be friends as they walked along, talking with each other. Suddenly a car pulled up and the blonde girl shoved the other girl to the ground and kicked her right in the face. Then she got in the car and they sped off. The dark-haired girl just lay on the ground, crying. I froze in place, not knowing what to do. After a few minutes a guy on a motor scooter showed up and helped the girl up, and she got on the back of his scooter and they left. I've probably seen worse things in my life because of what I do for a living, but I'm now 47 and this has stuck with me my whole life. A doctor during the CDC opioid panic with the new guidelines decided to cut an elderly man's prescription. He had a whole plethora of really fucked up illnesses, including AS and DDD. His spine was completely fused. He was on a lot, not sure of the exact numbers, but over 300 mme. The doctor cut his script in half and rapid tapered him, saying he needs to find other ways to deal with his pain. He tried going with it, went into withdrawal, and became essentially bedbound and in constant pain. No amount of calls please from him and his family would do anything. His son showed up with a video of him screaming until he passed out, and the doctor kicked him out. His 75-year-old wife was planning on buying him heroin, but he took his own life before that happened. Fuck that piece of shit doctor. Literally tortured him to death. A coworker with AIDS being proud of infecting many people. According to him, he did it as a revenge plot because he was not sure who infected him. Damn asshole. I saw a car deliberately swerve to hit a kitten on the side of the street. I know someone that films himself pissing all over public toilets. Floor, walls, sinks, handles, toilet paper, etc. In terms of like things I've seen people do personally, I knew someone who divorced his wife because he felt she loved their child more than she loved him. I just can't get over the mind of scammers. How do they sleep at night? Don't they feel terrible guilt-tricking people out of their hard-earned money and ruining their lives? An old boss of mine refused to wear condoms. When he would inevitably knock up a girlfriend, he would drive them to the abortion clinic, wait for them, and then drive the girl home. Then he would break up with her before leaving. Groomed his African sponsor child he and his wife put through school and university. She called them mom and dad. They brought her out to our country a few times and visited her in Kenya. They admitted the affair, then fled the state to avoid scandal, as he was a pretty high-standing driver in one of the biggest hospitals here. They are married with a kid now. Ex-wife died and threw him under the bus reputation-wise, but his former stepkids might. Had a close friend who ended up making a good living as a bullshit psychic. Fucking gross scammer. Haven't spoken to him in 20 years. Not as bad as some of the other stuff here. But a friend of a family member called an ambulance for their friend who was actively dying of cancer to get her out of her house, just so her and her daughter could raid the place of all the valuables. This included her cancer pain meds, that which they sold.